Good evening on behalf of the families, members, and friends of First United Methodist Church. We welcome you to this facility tonight. It is an honor for us to host a gathering with the intent of this one. Just to make a couple of opening remarks. One of the things that I guess when you get old enough, a lot of things take you back a long, long way. And a long, long time ago, I served in the United States Army for a couple of years. And this might not come as much of a surprise to you, but when you join the Army, you don't get to carry a gun. They don't trust people carrying a gun. For one thing, you learn that you don't call a firearm a gun, you call it a weapon. Because a weapon is exactly what it is. That's exactly its intent. To maim, damage, or to kill. The Army, until you're in a combat zone, knows that you really shouldn't be trusted with weapons. It's kind of like going into Cabela's. They sell them, but they don't want you to have them in the store, and for good reason. I want to mention three of my favorite biblical terms. And they come in various translations in both the prophets of the Hebrew Testament and in the New Testament as well. And the words in one phrase, three-word phrase, just stop it. Just stop it. An example from the Old Testament, the prophet Micah. He says the leaders of the faith are putting heavy burdens on the people. Just stop. You're doing things to damage people, to hurt people. Just stop. When you get to the New Testament, John the Baptist stands in the waters of the Jordan and calls out to the people, change, repent. What you're doing, just stop. When it comes to gun violence in this country and other countries around the world, I just want to scream with the prophets, just stop. You are here this evening because you're part of a group that cries out, just stop. Great big letters on the lawn that spell out the word enough. Enough is another way of saying just stop. I also have confidence in the prophets when they say that one day God will bring peace. And it will take a God to bring peace. And one day, indeed, the same prophet tells us the swords will be beaten into plowshares and people will study war no more. And neither will they study the kind of violence that goes on in our city streets, in our neighborhoods, in our schools. Schools like Sandy Hook. We need to bring stop. And you have come tonight to unite all of our voices and say, just stop it.
Good evening. It is both an honor and a solemn responsibility to stand before you today as we gather for the 11th Annual National Interfaith Vigil for all victims and survivors of gun violence. My name is Yolanda Androzo, Executive Director of 180. Our mission is to educate, advocate, and organize to end gun violence. This year marks the 11th anniversary of the Sandy Hook massacre of 20 children and 6 educators. This horrific event shattered millions of hearts in America and around the world. As we come together to honor the victims of Sandy Hook mass shooting and countless others affected by this tragic ripple of mass shootings, we cannot ignore the stark reality that gun violence permeates the fabric of our communities. In 2023 alone, there have been 632 mass shootings in the United States, and as December 6th, 80 of which have taken place at a school. Guns are now the leading cause of death for American children and teens, surpassing car accidents and cancer. In Illinois, an average of 1,500 people die from gun-related incidents each year. That's an average of 1 death every 5 hours. Our communities are being traumatized time and time again by gun violence, and that pain, that trauma of your loved one being taken from you due to a gun, or you yourself being shot due to a gun, never. Often fueled by white supremacy, mass churches, temples, synagogues, and mosques have become more frequent since the mid-2000s. In house of worship shootings that occurred between 1966 and 2020, 27% of perpetrators expressed racism towards people of color, and 46% were motivated by religious hate, which includes anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anger at Christianity and Christians. But you know, it's after those incidents of gun violence that our interfaith communities often are the sites for funeral rituals, collective grieving, and long-term support networks for survivors. Acting out of a sense of moral conviction, faith-based organizations play a significant role to end gun violence through violence interruption programs, education, counseling, and advocating for common sense gun law reform. Today's gathering is a reminder that we are not alone in this fight to end gun violence. And to the survivors, we want you to know that you are not alone. We see you, we hear you, we support you. Today's gathering is a testament of the power of community, faith, and collective action. So, together, let us not only remember those who have been taken from us, but commit ourselves. And if you're committed, recommit ourselves to the tireless pursuit of a future where no community has to bear the weight of gun violence. Thank you for joining us in this solemn yet hopeful occasion. May our collective presence and dedication to serve as a beacon of light in the darkness, guiding us toward a safer and more compassionate world. I'd like to now bring up and welcome Kathy Reisberg, who is co-lead of NWSOFA-Indivisible DBP team and co-lead of the Illinois Social Justice Alliance.
Yolanda, thank you so much. There is no doubt about the passion, about the power of your voice to bring us all together. So good evening to all of you and welcome tonight. I'm deeply honored and humbled to be standing here today to share these beautiful and comforting words from my good friend and sister in faith, Sadia Qureshi. First and foremost, thank you so much for arranging and including my words in this Interfaith Vigil, where we remember and grieve for loved ones lost and empathize with the loved ones that are left behind. As I thought of what I wanted to share today, I immediately thought about the shooting in Nevada just a couple of days ago, where there were more lives lost, more loved ones left grieving. I also thought about the deeply horrific losses of life in the Middle East, all at the hands of violence. Families torn apart, children orphaned, communities destroyed. All of this is a lot to process, and I needed to make sense. As a peace builder and a Muslim, in times of hardship, I often reflect on a verse from the Quran, 94:5, and indeed, with hardship, there is ease. To me, God promises that while going through hard times, the ease, the relief is right there, and my work is to find it. Perhaps it's a deepened relationship with friends by your side to give you comfort, or an important perspective on your life's work that has now become clear, or as in our case, discovering a community that is so passionately collaborating and remembering all that we've lost and why we are in this important work. As a person of faith, I try to find purpose in situations and experiences. I believe there is a profound reason, a divine reason, for us gathering here. Perhaps this moment today was not possible without the importance and urgency we all feel for our work. And we believe this is our time to make an impact in the world today. I know we are all feeling many powerful, possibly conflicting emotions today: sorrow, anger, frustration, helpless, hopeful, optimistic, comforted. My advice is to take this emotion in whatever form it comes and to channel it into action. Enduring these hardships makes the work personally meaningful to us. We are all here because our hearts know that a more beautiful world is possible, and we are determined to work together and make it so. Thank you again. My heart is with you all. Sadia Qureshi, Common Ground USA, Preemptive Love.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to now welcome our interfaith speakers, Rabbi Even Lopez of the Congregation Solel, and Sivan Singh Malo of the Sikh Religious Society of Chicago.
Good evening. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Indivisible and NWSOFA, and of course, Kathy Ritzberg, who is amazing. We all know this. And many of you probably have heard me speak many times, since I speak annually on this special occasion. I have to say that because it's very hard for all of us. My family, if you don't know, my name is Singh Mago. And I represent myself, my family, my mom, my grandma. I represent the Sikh community. And honestly, my family were victims of gun violence. When I was 3 months old in 1984, my mother's father, in an act of robbery, was killed by a gunman who was shot in the head. I was robbed of the opportunity to meet my grandfather. My grandmother, I read the police report, she was hit in the head with the butt of the gun. And it's something that I can't unread. And my grandmother, she lived a great life until 92 years of age, but she had to spend the last 35 years of her life without her husband. And that's what it cost her. I knew what it cost my mom that she couldn't talk about her father for the first 25 years of my life. And I understood that. But I don't want to bore you with all of those things. That's my life, and that's what it took from me. It's taking so much from so many other people's lives. I want to talk to you about something new because I've been talking and talking about the same things. I can regurgitate the stats, why this doesn't happen, why nothing happens. But the reality is, the Las Vegas shooting scared me. And it scared me because I'm numb. You know, if I, with my family history, am starting to normalize gun violence in my own head, who's gonna fight for my grandfather? Who's gonna fight for my grandmother? Who's gonna fight for my mom that's sitting right there, who lost her father? And when I think about that I'm numb. I don't like, do I not care about what happened in my family? Do I not care about the violence that happened to me, to my mom, to my grandma? No, I do, but the thing is, it's just so much. How can we care about every single situation? I was in England visiting my grandmother. Before she passed, I was able to, the last 3 years of her life, graciously because of my job, I was able to spend 6 months at various times. I was able to spend a month at a time because I had to travel to Serbia for work. And so my deal was on my way back home, my employer can give me to go to Serbia for 2 months a year. I get to spend time with my grandma for 1 month. And it was the best decision I ever made. It was the most amazing time that I ever had. But there was an armed knifing on the British tube. Wall-to-wall coverage. My grandma was scared. She said, "Don't go on the tube." And I was like laughing. I was like, a knifeman? That struck down British society. And, I was thinking, whoa, like a knifeman, really? Nobody died. Somebody did get stabbed. They went to the hospital. Everything was fine. And I was thinking, well, at least he didn't have a gun. And I know everybody in this room would see that situation and they would agree with me because of how normalized the violence is in our country. We know this. We see this. We hear this all the time. And we're like, I wish he had a knife. And then I had to think about it. And I realized I'm wrong. They're right. The violence we accept in our society is wrong. Even the violence of this room that we all want something to change, and we know that nothing changes. We know the reasons why. We can delve into that. I've talked about it at length. Money, this, that, whatever. We don't have to get into that. We know why. But it's like, how numb are we that we would accept a knifeman on the CTA and be like, that's a win. At least it wasn't a gun. And so I had to reset. And I had to think about what humanity we have lost along this way. What type of violence we accept for our children. I'm not a father. I have 2 nieces and a nephew. And I think about this. That my niece, she was in a lockdown at her school. Like, I don't even have to tell you how scared that was for me. I held all 3 of my nieces and nephew within 10 minutes of their births. They could not feel more like my own children if they were my own children. They are my children. They're my sister's children. So when we think about the cycle of violence and the violence that our society accepts, the violence that is accepted around the world, we have to be introspective of at least it wasn't a knife. No, that's not okay either. None of it is okay. Violence is not okay. So in that regard, I would like to share a poem with you all. This poem is written by Rafat al-Rib. He's a Palestinian from Gaza. And he was an educator. He was a scholar. He was a poet. He was an advocate for peace. He was an advocate for justice for his people. And he was killed in an airstrike on December 7th, on Thursday. And his poem that he wrote is aptly titled, "If I Must Die." If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad, who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment, an angel is there. Bring back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. With that, I would like to take a moment of silence for the 20 children that died, the 20 innocent children that died, and the 6 adults that died on that frightful day in 2012 at Sandy Hook. God bless you all.
My thanks to Satnam. There is no person more passionate among our faith community than Satnam. He comes to speak. If Reverend Ivan Mafik is here, we invite him up to speak. And if not, would Stuart Reed please come up to introduce our survivor speakers? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Stuart Reed. I'm the founder of the Illinois Alliance to Prevent Gun Violence. We're a grassroots-based organization representing more than 60 gun violence prevention groups across the state of Illinois, from Waukegan to East St. Louis, working together from a myriad of perspectives on reducing gun violence in our state. We'd love to connect with you and learn about your experiences and also add your voice to our conversation. But I'll keep my remarks short because we won't take any time away from the survivors that are here tonight. I do want to thank everyone who's taken time to attend today, the faith leaders, the activists, the survivors, the community members, the church leaders, and the church staff who have taken their time this evening to help put on this event. To everyone who's here tonight, I say, listen to the survivors. There's wisdom in their words. Wisdom as to how to overcome tragedy, wisdom as to how to carry on, wisdom as to the solutions that are needed in our communities, wisdom as to what will work, and sometimes wisdom as to what will work. And please don't be afraid to talk to survivors. It can be uncomfortable, but don't be afraid to get uncomfortable. To make progress, we all have to be willing to get uncomfortable, to talk to people who are different from us, to talk about topics that are uncomfortable, And even within the gun violence prevention movement, we're not always going to agree, but we have to have those difficult conversations to move forward. I certainly don't know all of the gun violence survivors in the Illinois, could I? But I do know Maria Pike, and I won't try to tell her story for her. But I will tell you that her wisdom, guidance, friendship, and her humor have been invaluable to me in my efforts to build up this organization and to make a positive contribution in the community. And I cherish the opportunity to continue learning from her and collaborating with her. And I think it's fair to say, in many ways, Maria has become the mother of a lot of us in the Illinois gun violence prevention movement. So we have three speakers who are all survivors. And the first one is Kathy Gregg, survivor and president of the MJ Project.
Hey guys, just want to say good evening and thank you all so much for coming out for such a noble cause. And I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to ring the bell for those children. Every time you ring it, it brought real emotion from me as I think about their little faces and how scared they must have been and the pain that they had to feel. And it reminds me of my son. And I'm sorry guys. My name is Happy Gray. I'm the mother of 4-year-old James Jr. 2 years ago on Labor Day, we were visiting the city of Chicago to enjoy a 3-day weekend and hang out with his dad. But within 24 hours of me and my son landing in Chicago, a drive-by shooting happened. 27 bullets went off that day, and 2 of those bullets struck my baby, and he died 2 days later. So just to think about the victims of Sandy Hook, to think about the victims of Uvalde, to think about the victims of Nevada, it just brings real emotion out of me because every time I hear about them, I know that it is wrong. I know that it has been normalized. But I thank you for saying that we cannot numb to this. I absorb those feelings and I feel them very strongly because my heart drops to my stomach to think that another family, several families are gonna have to go through the same thing and they're gonna have to start this journey down the same path that too many of us have been down. So tonight I wrote a letter. This letter is to address the mothers that have gone through the same thing that we are going through. And it says, with a heavy heart, I write this letter to all the mothers around the world that are in mourning, specifically to the mothers who have lost their child and has had been murdered to gun violence, to weapons violence. The mothers whose children died of violent and preventable death, I am with you. To lose your child in any capacity is devastating. The natural order is not to have to bury your own child. We mourning mothers know a grief and a pain in our souls, which can never be described. I felt that pain on September the 5th, 2021, when my 4-year-old baby boy passed away from 2 bullet wounds to the head. I feel for all of those that have lost and want to send my love your way. My sweet baby boy, just like the victims of Sandy Hook, he was not committing a crime, and he was not preparing to hurt anyone. He was bonding with his father at a friend's house. And all I can think is that we must not, I'm so sorry guys, is that we must not let our children's death go gently into the good night. We must rage against the dying light. And the light that we must fight is for our children. Let their memories live on. And please help me honor their life, that they shine on this earth by promoting justice for those who have escaped punishment for their evil acts against the most vulnerable. There are too many of us that have gone through the same thing not to have effective change for each other. Our community too often elicits strong emotions after these horrific incidents, only for it to fade into normalcy. So please join me in this fight for our children. And I wrote this letter to the mothers, and I also wrote 2 letters to the city of Chicago and their leaders as a plea from yet another parent who lost a child to gun violence. We must help each other in moments like these. I ask that all mothers and fathers to stand together in the effort to seek justice. We are many, and we have the power to change it ourselves. We must be willing to remove these types of people that will kill a child in front of you. We deserve better and our children deserve better. I know we are all aware of certain unspoken codes in the busy streets of Chicago, but the code should not stand in the case of killing children. There should be no protection for such crimes. So let us speak up and speak truth to the evil. We are more than the city that they portray on the news. There are loving, caring, and kind and concerned citizens in the city, and we won't rest until there is change. Vigils like these can make a difference, and I can thank each of you enough for coming together for such a noble cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing our attention back to Sandy Hook and the origin of this event. And all the children that were lost that day. Our next speaker is Chandra Robinson.
Good evening, everyone. Very hard to comment. My sister Happy being a survivor as well. And I just want to start by saying my name is Chandra Robinson. My son, Dino Woodridge, who was my only child at the time as well, was murdered October 18, 2010, while standing on his grandmother's porch. He was only 18 years old at the time. Although this was a major blow, and I truly thought my life was over, life didn't stop, but it took a turn for God to be glorified. 7 months after Dino's transition, God allowed my husband, Layswan, who's absent today, and I to conceive another child. And 9 months later, came another beautiful boy named Desmond. He's with me today. He will be turning 12 on the 20th of this month. Thank you, God. God has truly been sovereign and faithful through all of these great tragedies, as well as triumphs. Speaking of Newtown, I want to thank Newtown. It was because of Newtown and Congresswoman Robin Kelly that I was allowed to become a voice, a more of a national voice for my son and all victims for gun violence. On September 13th at Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., I was able to speak about gun violence and regarding all of the things with Sandy Hook and so many more that was mentioned by Happy and so many that we can't even name, because I feel like we have become desensitized. Of course, as survivors, we are not. It's like a wound that cannot heal, because every time someone loses their life to this hideous gun violence, it's like the Band-Aid is being ripped off again. So it's hard to really heal. But because of that experience of me going to Washington and being able to connect with Newtown, it really did take what was my worst experience, and any experience that a parent can go through, I would say is the worst, to be able to bury your child, because this is really out of order. Our children should be burying us. However, I'm here to say that after that happened to my son, I had put an exclamation point, because I felt like everything was over. I felt like my life was over. But God, He erased it and He placed a comma, because there is a to be continued. And that's what I want to say to all of the parents, all of the victims that are going through this. There is a to be continued. We have to be a voice for our children, for our loved ones, for our parents. We've heard so much today. We have to be a voice. And I know that it gets difficult. I know that it gets overwhelming. We don't want anyone to feel sorry for us, but it is so terrible that we live in a world that we're experiencing this. Even as I'm speaking right now, somebody has lost their life, and we have to be a voice. I believe, and I've heard a great man say that God created us to solve problems. And the reason why we're here, we were born to solve a problem. Well, we know that this gun violence is a huge problem in America. And God created us to be a part to solve that problem. So even just with us being here today is a start. We can start, like they say, love starts at home and then spread abroad. We have to continue to be a voice. We know that there are so many great leaders that are marching, that are praying, that are, out here doing things in their community. But one of the things that I want to propose today is that what if we all did that? What if we put our religion to the side, put our denominations to the side, and we all came together at the same time? At the same time, north, south, east, and west, and come out and pray and cry out to God, however you choose to cry out to him, whatever you see him as, higher power, God, Yahweh, whatever you call him, Allah, whatever you call him. We want to, if we all got together at the same time, set a date and a time for us all to come together, what do we think God would do? I think something would change. And I know it's not going to be overnight. We may not even see it in our lifetime, but at least we put our mark and we did something in our lifetime. And I want to end by saying this is from my apostle, Matthew Stevenson. It's not my own words. So I want to just quote this. This is something that he often have us quote. And it is, great men and women are only born for the time that they are needed the most. The only reason why we're still here is because God is not finished. If this were everything that life had to offer, we would have a reason to quit. But because God is not finished, you have to press harder to see what tomorrow holds. Amen.
Thank you for your words, and thank you for calling us all to put our faith into action. Our next speaker is Maria Pike.
Good evening. My name is Maria Pike, and my story began with my son Ricky, who was murdered August 3rd, 2012. And 4 months later, 20 very young children and 6 educators were massacred. They were torn to pieces by a young shooter who killed his mother and himself. 11 years have since passed, and still the feelings of horror, sadness, empathy for those parents, their friends, family, the entire city of Newtown remain. Much has taken place since that day, and this tragedy, like no other, was the catalyst to renewed effort to stop the madness, the enormous amounts of guns in the hands of civilians who should not have them, and the loopholes that made it easier for them to acquire them. In 2013, many citizens from Newtown formed groups to honor with action. Among them was the Newtown Action Alliance. Paul Murray and others reached out to Representative Kelly in an effort to extend their support and give us Illinoisans equity, put a face on our tragedy. They understood that while the media extended support and give us Illinoisans equity, they were going to look at us in a different way. Many places in America were being ignored, and its citizens thought us thugs killing each other. Newtown Action Alliance and Representative Kelly brought survivors to Congress to use the power of their voices and stories to prompt lawmakers to action. 11 years later, we're still here. The tragedy of Highland Park, Uvalde, Buffalo, Lewistown show us once more that there is much work to be happening. We think that we must keep fighting. We believe that fairness will eventually win the day, that justice will be served, and the children and adults who moved a whole city and the rest of the country to action will never be forgotten. We will continue to honor them, confident that one day common sense gun laws will rule the day. Today, I honor the lives of Charlotte Bacon, 6, Daniel Barton, 7, Olivia Rose Engel, 6, Josephine Gay, 7, Anna Grace Marquez Green, 6, Dylan Hockley, 6, Madeleine Sue, 6, Catherine Hubbard, 6, Chase Kowalski, 7, Jesse Lewis, 6, James Mattioli, 6, Grace McDonald, 7, Emily Parker, 6, Jack Pinto, 6, Noah Posner, 6, Caroline Previli, 6, Jessica Ricos, 6, Abiel Richmond, 6, Benjamin Wheeler, 6, Alison White, 6. Educators Rachel Davino, Don Hawksbrand, Lauren Rousseau, Mary Shellac, Victoria Soto, and Marie Murphy. I just came from the DC National Vigil, and something really struck me as so true. Pastor Sam Saylor lost his son a few years back, and his granddaughter was killed this year. And he was talking about his relationship with his granddaughter. And because she had been good, she had good grades, she deserved a stipend. But she didn't want $50, she wanted $100. So she was talking to grandpa and telling him, you owe me. I did good, right? It was $100. And so the message was, we owe her. All of us owe her. Because we didn't bring the safety that she needed. It didn't happen. And also, when we talk about mass murders, we don't talk about the murders in cities like Chicago. But to him, the murder of his child, when he received those bullets and it destroyed everything in his body, to him, that was mass murder. And I think that all survivors feel the same way. We are fighting, we have been fighting for 11 years. We've known each other, many of the ones who are present here, for at least 10 years. And it is important to remember that we are here, this is our voice. We have been fighting and fighting. At the end of the day, something good will happen. It took 30 years for Brady to be successful. We are in our 11th year and we keep going. And I thank the Governor Pritzker, for all the laws that he has put in place. And I'm hoping that these laws will translate into the federal level, because that's what we need. For these angels, all angels taken by gun violence, I will continue to honor with action for the next 11 years. Thank you.
So I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us tonight, whether you're here in this place of worship or on Zoom. Your presence has brought solace and strength to this space where we remember the victims of gun violence and renew our collective commitment to lasting change. Before we disperse, we have calls to action that we want to share with you. And I invite you to continue your support by taking tangible actions. So at 180, we prepared an advocacy document that holds the power to amplify our voices in this movement. This document is equipped with QR codes for your convenience. There are handouts if you are online on Zoom. The links will be dropped in chat. And what we're asking you to do is take the gun safety pledge. It's a commitment for promoting responsible gun ownership and advocating for safer communities. And as Maria Pike was mentioning, another action is urging Congress to pass a national ordinance. Needs to happen. So you can just scan this QR code, go to the link that's provided for you in chat, and please, participate. Every signature is a resounding call for sensible legislation that prioritizes the safety of our communities over the weapons designed for mass harm. As you engage with these actions, remember that each pledge, each signature is a testament to the collective strength and a step forward toward a safer future. And many of us, all the different GBP groups and our survivors, were working on numerous advocacy actions, numerous policies that will help protect Illinois communities. We go on oneaimil.org and join our coalition. It's a statewide coalition to end gun violence. You can join the movement. If you are a survivor or you know someone who is a survivor of gun violence, please join our Survivors Council as well. Lastly, I'd like to say, and just thank you for being a driving force behind the movement. Together, we are agents of change, and together we will make our collective voice heard. May our advocacy spark the change we seek. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Everyone who is here tonight has taken steps. You've come out of your homes on a chilly December evening when I'm sure there's lots of steps that need to be taken to prepare for the upcoming holidays, and you've made yourself available to be here as part of this. So my challenge to each of you is simple. Bring one new person into the work in Illinois for gun violence prevention. Bring one new friend or colleague or coworker or relative beyond yourself, because you're already here. You're already being part of the solution. But our success is dependent on growing the movement beyond the current closure of activists. We need that next generation and that next generation beyond it. So my challenge to you is everyone here tonight, find one person in the community that you can add to the voice of the gun violence prevention movement in Illinois within the next couple of months and bring them out to an event. Please check us out at IllinoisAllies.com. We have a running school of statewide gun violence prevention events from every part of the state, and easy enough to join up with us. But thank you for being here tonight, everyone who took the time to participate. And thank you for Tufunga. Thank you to First United Methodist Church for hosting this wonderful gathering again. Thank you.
You actually took the words right out of my mouth. When it comes to a call of action, I feel like you all have already done that. I feel like I am in a room speaking to my family, to speaking to people who are already on my side of the table, who are already my allies. So, the call to action is doing exactly what you're doing, but I do have one action that you can do. Can you all just raise your hand? Can you raise it a little bit higher? Just a reminder, you can always do just a little bit more. Thank you, guys.
Again, I am very, very grateful to be a part of this forum tonight. Again, I thank each and every one of you for already honoring action. As a mother who lost a child and countless of other family members since I've lost my child, I am definitely a voice. I will continue on action in Newtown and everywhere, all over the world. And again, keep that proposal in mind that someone maybe even here can reach out to the leaders, the Chicago leaders, to set a time for us all to pray and march together. Because this is bigger than, this is not just a flesh and blood battle for those of us that believe in the spiritual realm. We are really in a big battle. And we need to not only march, but we need to pray. And it will be amazing to do it all at the same time, north, south, east, and west. Put all of our differences to the side and come together for a common cause. Thank you.
Well, I think I've said it many, many times throughout the years that without you, there is no me. May the message see you, hear you, support you, be the guiding light for our actions and interactions with the community of survivors in the coming year. We represent the voices of our loved ones. We deserve respect and grace, and we will always work for peace in our communities. Happy holidays.
I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Reverend Carlson will be coming up to close out our time together. And this has been just an amazing time. Our survivors are amazing. They're here to share their stories. They've done such a beautiful job. And we always want them to know that we see them, we support them, they're not alone. Those are Maria Pike's words, telling us this is the one thing that we can do for them. And so I invite you to get involved, as everyone has asked you to, beyond what you're doing right now. It's raise your hand a little bit higher, and you'll find a sense of peace and a sense of hope that comes from doing this type of work. So thank you again for coming. We so appreciate you, Reverend Carlson. Thank you.
Your pain has moved us. Your strength inspires us. You could have sunk into yourselves, but you rose up and you invite others to rise up, and there's no greater way that you can respond to any circumstance in life. I add my thank you to all of you for coming tonight, for being part of this. And I do hope that you can remain involved and that you can go home and enjoy the peace of this night. We have a phrase around here, kind of the theme of this church: love boldly, because a better world is possible. So go and be at peace and love boldly and be kind to one another.
Amen.
Amen.